The morning I knew something was off, my wife made the bed. That might not sound like a red flag to most, but you have to understand, Emma hadn't made the bed in 3 years, not once, not even when we had guests over. Suddenly, it was tucked hospital tight like a showroom floor, and she'd even fluffed my side of the pillow, which was weird considering she used to call my pillow the drool sponge. But the thing that really caught my eye, the thing that made my blood turn cold and my mind snap into hunter mode, was the faint, perfect imprint of a second head on my pillow, directly opposite hers, sunken just enough that it had to be recent. Like the echo of someone else's skull had visited my side of the bed while I was at work yesterday. I didn't say anything. I didn't throw the pillow or punch a wall or accuse her with a trembling voice. I just stood there in the doorway of our bedroom, toothbrush still in my mouth, foam gathering at the corner of my lips, and I stared at that otherworldly dent like it was a goddamn crime scene. Emma came in behind me, all soft and casual, tying her hair up in that lazy twist she always did when she didn't want to wash it. She didn't even flinch when she saw me staring at the bed. She just kissed me on the cheek and said, "I thought I'd surprise you by actually acting like a wife today." That's when it clicked. She wasn't cleaning up out of guilt. She was performing. She was overcompensating. And only guilty people try that hard to seem innocent. The scent on the pillow wasn't mine. It was too strong, cheap cologne mixed with body spray and something else. Sweat. Male sweat. Foreign. The kind that didn't belong in a home where I paid the mortgage. From that moment on, I watched her. Every blink, every text, every trip to the store. I counted seconds on errands. I logged timestamps on receipts. You don't spend 6 years building a life with someone without learning the tempo of their lies, and suddenly her rhythm was off. The groceries were too specific. The perfume was new. The way she smiled when texting someone? It wasn't me. She never smiled when she texted me. I stayed quiet, though. I wanted to know more than if. I wanted the who, the how long, and more importantly, the why now. I became a ghost in my own house, playing dumb, staying late at work on purpose to see what she'd do, setting silent alarms on the front door to track when she came and went. Then one day, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. Usually locked. This time it wasn't. Almost like she wanted to be caught but needed me to do it first, so she could shift the guilt. The message was short. Last night was amazing. Same time next week? Smiling face with horns, no name. Just a number. But the contact picture, oh, the picture. My stomach dropped. It was blurry, like a screenshot from a video, but unmistakable. It was her best friend, Alyssa. Her lifelong best friend. The one who cried at our wedding and gave the toast where she swore I was the one who saved Emma from herself. The one who always joked about how lucky Emma was to have found a man who cooked, cleaned, and stayed faithful. The one who, for some reason, had stopped coming around the past 6 months, after being practically a third roommate before. And now here she was, sucking face with my wife in a low-res photo, timestamped 2:11 a.m., 2 days ago, while I was on a business trip I told Emma I didn't want to take. My hand didn't shake. I didn't throw the phone. I took a screenshot, texted it to myself, and then deleted the thread. I left the phone exactly as I found it, face down and unlocked, like nothing had happened. That was when the plan started forming, not a plan for confrontation or screaming or pathetic begging for honesty. No, I wasn't going to ask her why she did it. I was going to make her regret that she did it to me. And the most poetic part of all? I already knew how. Because what Emma never knew, what she never bothered to ask, was that Alyssa and I had a moment years ago. A fleeting, fragile, nearly acted on moment before Emma and I started dating. Alyssa had kissed me once, just once, back when Emma and I were only friends. She pulled away quickly, laughed nervously, and said, "Just checking," like it meant nothing. But the look in her eyes, that stayed with me. And now, that look would become my weapon. Because I knew exactly where to aim, and now I had a reason to fire. We used to have a rhythm, Emma and I. Not perfect, not fairy tale, but real flawed and comfortable, like a well-worn hoodie that still keeps you warm. She worked a few days a week managing some social media accounts for local businesses, nothing too demanding, and I'd cover most of the bills with my job in IT. We cooked together, laughed about dumb reality shows, and used to fall asleep with our legs tangled, her hand always resting lightly on my chest like a quiet reassurance. But then she started getting up earlier than usual. It wasn't drastic at first, just 6:30 instead of 7 o'clock. She said she was trying to establish a morning routine for mental clarity. I bought it. Hell, I encouraged it. She started doing yoga in the living room, always with the curtains drawn and a scented candle burning. I admired her discipline at first, even joked about joining her, but every time I tried she said, "This is my time, babe." It wasn't hostile. It wasn't cold. But it was separate. That was the beginning. The little inch of distance that, over time, grew into a canyon. Then came the new clothes, sleek, monochrome workout gear that looked more suited to a fitness influencer than someone doing beginner yoga in our suburban townhouse. I didn't think much of it until she mentioned her personal trainer at the studio downtown. Funny, I thought she was working out at home. I asked when she started going to a gym. She just blinked and said, "A couple weeks ago. I needed a change of scenery." I smiled and nodded, pretended it made sense. Because in marriages, you don't jump to conclusions. You give the benefit of the doubt. That's what trust is, right? Trust is ignoring the growing feeling in your gut that something is no longer right, because you'd rather be wrong than paranoid. Then she started talking about boundaries. That word slithered into our conversations like a snake in the grass. I asked her to come with me to my niece's recital. She looked up from her phone and said, "I've had a really draining week. I need some alone time. I'm working on setting boundaries." I remember standing there, holding my car keys, thinking, boundaries? Since when do we need those? But I didn't fight it. I told myself she was just overwhelmed. It got worse. Her phone habits changed. She used to leave it anywhere, on the couch, the bathroom counter, the nightstand. Now, it never left her side. It came to the dinner table, to bed, even into the shower. Always face down. One day, I noticed her social media had gone private. I couldn't see her posts anymore. When I asked, she casually said, "I'm just cleansing my digital space. It's not personal." But how could it not be? When the woman you love starts walling off parts of herself behind passwords and platitudes, it is personal, no matter what she says. And she had this new energy about her, restless, vibrating. Like she was always on the edge of something, always about to leave. She started going out more. Not wild parties, just vague little outings. Going to grab coffee with the girls, she'd say. Or just running some errands. But it never added up. There'd be no shopping bags, no coffee cups, no photos, no stories. Just silence. And the perfume. She changed it, richer, heavier. The kind you wear to get noticed. One Saturday, I borrowed her car to go get groceries. She usually insisted on doing the shopping herself, said she liked picking the produce. But she'd slept in that morning, and I figured I'd surprise her. I slid into the driver's seat, adjusted the mirror, and that's when I saw it. A crumpled parking ticket tucked under the passenger seat. Issued downtown, 2 days ago, at 10:47 p.m. She told me she'd been home all evening watching a documentary about whales. I remembered because I walked in midway and she snapped at me for talking over the narrator. I held the ticket like it might burn me. I didn't confront her. I didn't want to lie. I wasn't ready for the truth. I just folded it carefully and slipped it into my wallet. My mind started collecting all the little pieces like a jigsaw puzzle made of red flags. The receipt for 2 smoothies when she claimed she was fasting. The lingering scent of cologne on her scarf that wasn't mine. The sudden interest in journaling and meditation and not being defined by someone else's expectations. What expectations? We built our life together brick by brick, and now she acted like the house was a cage. At night, she still curled up beside me. She still said, "I love you," when I said it first. But her kisses felt rehearsed. Her laughter was hollow, like she was playing a part in a play we used to write together, but she no longer remembered her lines. I wanted to believe it was just a phase, that maybe she was going through something internal and needed time. So I gave it. I gave her space. I gave her silence. I gave her everything, except suspicion. Because that's not what you do when you love someone. You don't go looking for betrayals. You wait and hope and lie to yourself. Until, eventually, the truth walks into your bedroom and leaves its head-shaped in on your side of the bed. It was a Tuesday evening when it happened, quiet and unassuming, the kind of night designed to hide devastation behind routine. Emma was working late, again, her new favorite phrase, dropped with such nonchalance it almost sounded boring. I didn't question it anymore. I didn't have to. Her stories had holes, jagged ones, but I let them bleed quietly. I'd already started moving in the shadows, duplicating keys, screenshotting messages, checking browser history she thought she had deleted. But I was still waiting, still collecting. Until that night. I'd gotten home before her, made dinner, poured wine. She texted that she'd be back around 9. I didn't respond. I just sat in the dark, letting the food get cold, watching the hallway like it owed me answers. When she finally came in, all smiles and apologies, Carrying that ridiculous lavender laptop bag she never used until recently, I stayed calm. She said she was exhausted. I nodded, kissed her on the cheek, and told her to go rest. She showered, changed into her old sleep shirt. One of mine she had cut the sleeves off, and curled into bed like nothing was rotting underneath us. And then she fell asleep. Just like that. Peaceful. Undisturbed. It was almost impressive. I waited 2 hours, just breathing, just thinking. At 1:07 a.m., I got up, walked to her side of the bed, and picked up the laptop bag as silently as a shadow. She never locked it. Not the bag, not the laptop. I'd checked before. It was always zipped, but never guarded. Like she thought betrayal could be hidden behind casual inconvenience. I opened it slowly, sat on the floor in the hallway outside the bedroom, and turned it on. No password. Just her name on the login screen. Her name, and a wallpaper I didn't recognize. Her and Alyssa on a beach, arms wrapped around each other, cheek to cheek, sunset behind them. I stared at that photo for a long time, not because I was shocked, but because it confirmed everything in one frame. The intimacy, the timing, the lies. But it was the folder on her desktop labeled Private Notes that cracked me open. She'd never been a digital journal type. She always scribbled in those little leather-bound notebooks she kept beside the bed. But this was new. And inside that folder, there were dozens of documents. I opened one at random. It was titled Exit Strategy. I read the first paragraph, and my body went cold. She was planning to leave. Not someday soon. She'd been writing out timelines. Pros and cons financial calculations. Emotional logistics. And the way she described me. He's too stable. Too safe. I need passion. I need someone who burns. Another line. I'll wait until after his birthday. It'll be cleaner that way. Maybe we can stay friends. Stay friends. I read those words like they were carved into my bones. She was plotting my removal like a corporate downsizing, cold, clean, efficient. Another document. What I love about A. I opened it and felt the world tilt. Paragraph after paragraph about Alyssa, her scent, her hands, her voice, the thrill, the secrecy. With A, I feel like I can breathe. Like I've come alive again. I think I've always loved her, but I didn't have the courage to admit it until now. Until now. So this wasn't recent. This wasn't a detour. This was a destination she'd been walking toward while pretending to still hold my hand. I closed the document. My heart didn't race. My fists didn't clench. I was calm. Still. Empty in the most surgical way. The betrayal didn't make me want to scream. It made me want to destroy. I slipped the laptop back into the bag, zipped it slowly, and returned it to its place like nothing had happened. She was still breathing softly in the bed. I stood over her, watching. She looked younger when she slept, like the girl I used to know. But she wasn't that girl anymore. That girl was dead. This one beside me was a stranger who'd carved out a space in my life just deep enough to gut me. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and drank it slow, each sip anchoring me in this new reality. My mind wasn't spinning. It was sharpening. I knew what I had to do. There would be no confrontation, no accusations. She wanted to leave. Fine, but not on her terms. Not with dignity. Not with freedom. I was going to give her everything she thought she wanted, then make her regret ever wanting it. This wasn't heartbreak. This was war. And the best part? She was still dreaming. After reading those files on her laptop, I didn't sleep. I lay beside her in bed, eyes wide open, listening to every breath she took, every unconscious twitch, memorizing the rise and fall of a woman who had no idea the man beside her had already buried the version of himself she thought she knew. By morning, I had already begun the operation, because that's what it became in my head. Not revenge, not retaliation, but a calculated operation of exposure and precision. The first thing I did was buy a burner phone. Not a cheap, trashy one, but a sleek prepaid model with encrypted messaging. I used it to create a fake Instagram profile, someone believable, attractive, local, with mutual friends. I didn't use it to message Emma, though. I used it to message Alyssa. A casual follow, a few likes on her photos, and within days, she followed back. I baited the hook with clever comments, a few compliments, and waited. Meanwhile, I started taking control of the digital territory, changing all our shared account passwords under the guise of cybersecurity updates, giving me full visibility into her online habits. I set up alerts on our joint bank account, tracking every transaction in real time. That's when I noticed the Uber rides, short ones, always late at night, usually on Thursdays. She told me Thursdays were deep cleanse nights at the yoga studio. But none of those rides ever went near that part of town. One in particular caught my attention. Pick up at 9:13 p.m., 3 blocks from our house, drop off at an apartment complex 30 minutes away, where Alyssa lived. I didn't confront her. I brought her flowers the next day, kissed her on the forehead, and asked if she wanted to do date night Friday. She said she was swamped, too much on her plate, and I smiled like an idiot and said, "Of course, babe. You do your thing." I planted a small Bluetooth tracker in the lining of her gym bag that night, slid in between the stitching, undetectable, synced to my phone. Friday rolled around. She said she had a late client at the studio. I watched the little blue dot move across the map to the same apartment complex from Thursday. Same building. I screen recorded everything. Time, location, movement. I stayed home that night, cooked a steak, watched a movie, and kept one eye on the blue dot like a hunter watching a wounded animal limp into a clearing. When she came back, she was smiling. She even brought me a protein smoothie like some sick joke. I asked her how her client was. She launched into a 10-minute story about a woman recovering from knee surgery. I listened closely, nodding, even asked follow-up questions. Every word was a rope she was using to hang herself. The next phase was physical. I started doing the laundry again, not all of it, just hers. I said it was a surprise, that I wanted to help out more. She laughed and kissed me, saying how sweet I was. That's when I noticed the underwear rotation had changed. Lace sets I hadn't seen in years. This special occasion ones. Never worn at home. I started photographing each set, logging which days she wore what. Patterns emerged. The black lace set always coincided with visits to the complex. The red one? Tuesday nights. The same night she said she was staying late at the co-working space. I installed a keylogger on her laptop. Hidden, silent, undetectable. I started receiving daily logs of everything she typed. Passwords, messages, email drafts. I found her alternate email address, created with her maiden name and used for private communications with Alyssa. The contents were devastating. Plans to go on a weekend trip. Discussions about how to handle the transition after she breaks the news to me. Even a spreadsheet listing who to tell first and how to spin the story so she wouldn't be the villain. I read every line, every word, every "love you more," and "can't wait to be free." I read them not with pain, but with precision. She wasn't going to come clean. She wasn't going to ask for forgiveness. She was going to erase me. I started laying traps. I asked her if she could drop off a package at her office one afternoon. I had it delivered there ahead of time, and I wanted to verify if she'd actually show up. She said she'd take care of it. The package never moved. The receptionist confirmed later she hadn't seen Emma all week. I didn't tell Emma that. I thanked her for being so helpful. I started referencing fake events, fake coworkers, fake plans, to see if she'd pretend to remember or react. She always played along, lied with ease. I smiled with every success. The woman I married was gone. In her place stood a creature molded by self-interest, delusion, and cowardice. But she still thought she was in control. That was her mistake. She didn't know I'd already mapped the battlefield. Every move she made, I had anticipated. Every lie, I had verified. She thought I was sleeping beside her, when in reality, I had already left that bed weeks ago. I was a shadow now, and she couldn't see me watching. But soon, she would feel it. Because shadows move before the strike. It happened at a gallery opening of all places, a modern art exhibit Alyssa had helped organize downtown, held in this sleek, glass-paneled space filled with minimalist sculptures and pretentious hors d'oeuvres. Emma had begged me to come with her, said it would mean a lot if I showed support for her friend's professional moment. I said yes, of course, and smiled like I didn't already have front-row seats to the train wreck about to unfold. I wore the watch she gave me on our 3rd anniversary, and the cologne she said made me smell like someone who mattered. She wore a red dress I hadn't seen in years, tied in all the right places, meant to draw eyes, and I let her think it was working. We arrived, mingled. She pretended to point out pieces of art, made up analysis, while I nodded and kept a calm hand on her lower back. She was radiant. She looked like victory, and she had no idea she was walking into her own execution. I had already spoken to the gallery coordinator, told him I was planning a surprise for my wife, a short video to play during the intermission slideshow. Nothing graphic, nothing offensive, just a tribute to someone I love. I'd handed him a USB drive, professionally edited, silent, elegant, exactly 90 seconds. When the lights dimmed and the projector hummed to life, Emma gripped my hand, smiling. "What is this?" She whispered. You'll see, I said, and that was the last time she looked at me with anything close to affection. The slideshow began. Photos of the artists, behind-the-scenes shots, guests clapping, then smoothly transitioned into the footage I'd planted. A slow pan of her walking out of Alyssa's apartment building at night, laughing, hand in hand with her. Then another clip, this time from a distance, both of them seated at a restaurant, same side of the booth, kissing like teenagers. The final image was a freeze frame from her laptop wallpaper, the two of them wrapped around each other on the beach, date and time edited subtly into the corner. The room didn't gasp. It was too polite for that. But the silence was deafening. Emma's hand slipped from mine as her body went rigid. She looked at me, then the screen, then back. That's not what it looks like, she said too fast, too loud. I didn't respond. I just tilted my head slightly, like I was watching a stranger struggle to read a language she once knew. We were just talking that night, she tried again, now blinking rapidly. It's edited, you're twisting things. Her voice broke off when she realized no one was stopping the video. No one was coming to save her. Okay, she snapped, her tone sharp now. So what if we did kiss? You barely touched me for months. You made me feel invisible. I still said nothing. I let the silence wrap around her like a noose. You don't understand what it's like to feel wanted again. To have someone see you. Her voice cracked on that last word, like she thought appealing to pity would soften the blow. I stared through her like glass. You act like I set out to hurt you, she said, lowering her voice now, trying to regain control. But you're so cold. You've been cold for years. I needed something that felt alive. Her eyes were darting around the room now, calculating who had seen, who was whispering, which doors were open. Then her chin lifted, her mouth curled into that smirk she wore when she thought she had the upper hand. You really think this makes you look good? You ambush me at a public event like a child? Everyone's going to know how pathetic you were after this. She took a step closer, leaning in, voice barely above a whisper. You can't hold on to me by embarrassing me. I've already moved on. That was when I spoke. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just steady. I didn't play the video for them, I said. I played it for you, so you'd know I see you too. Not the performance. Not the mask. The real you. The one who calculated timelines in secret and made spreadsheets about how to discard the man who gave you everything. Her smirk vanished. You think this is the end? She hissed. This little stunt? She looked around again, this time with panic in her eyes. You think this makes you strong? I smiled, and it was the coldest smile I've ever worn. No, I said softly. Strength was staying silent long enough to let you bury yourself. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then turned as if to walk away, but stopped, just for a second, frozen by the weight of what she'd just lost. I didn't move. I didn't follow. I stood in the center of that gallery, hands in my pockets, and watched her unravel as the screen went black and the light slowly came back on. And in that heavy silence, she realized the applause wasn't for her anymore. The day after the gallery, she came home swinging, not physically, but verbally, slamming the door behind her with all the fury of someone who'd just been dragged through hell but refused to admit she set the fire herself. You humiliated me, she snapped, dropping her bag like a gauntlet, her heels clicking like gunshots across the tile. I was on the couch, calm, scrolling through emails, drinking black coffee like it was just another Tuesday, and maybe for me, it was. She stood in front of me, arms crossed, trembling with this mix of rage and desperation, like she still couldn't believe I had turned the mirror on her. You think that makes you some kind of man? Broadcasting my life like a movie? Who the hell does that? She spat. I didn't even look at her when I replied. Someone who got tired of playing a role in your lie. That froze her, just for a second, just enough for the mask to slip. Then she pivoted. Fast. I never would have done any of this if you'd actually paid attention to me, she said, voice laced with venom. You checked out years ago. You made everything about routines and bills and responsibility, like that's all I was worth, some chore on your checklist. I looked at her then, really looked at her, the way you look at someone you've finally buried in your mind. No, I said. You made yourself small so you could justify stepping out. Don't put your infidelity in my pocket. Her eyes widened. She wasn't used to that tone, cold, direct, absent of apology. She stepped back, like she thought distance would give her leverage. You smothered me, she barked, grasping now. You were everywhere. Always asking how my day was. Always checking in. You think that's love? That's control. I raised an eyebrow. So I asked how your day was too much, and that drove you to her? I said it flat, like reading a weather report, and it shattered whatever script she'd written in her head. You never let me breathe, she snapped, pacing now, spiraling. Every day felt like I was living in a cage you called commitment. You mean the cage you decorated, moved into, and begged me to build with you? I asked. Her face twisted. You think you're so clever, don't you? Playing the silent martyr. Acting like I'm some villain. You're not a villain, I said. You're worse. You're a coward. She flinched like I'd struck her. Her voice rose, sharp, cracking. You're not a man. You're just safe. Predictable. You were never dangerous enough to keep my interest. I laughed, just once, quietly. And yet here you are, trying to claw your way back into the good graces of the boring man you left behind. That one hit deep. I saw it. She blinked, bit her lip, then shifted again. The edge dulled, replaced by something softer, more pathetic. Do you really want to throw all this away? After everything we've built, she whispered, stepping closer, lowering her voice to that fake hurt tone she used to get out of tickets and deadlines. I made a mistake, okay? I was lost. You were distant. We were disconnected. But it wasn't all bad. We had good times. I set the coffee down and stood slowly, letting the silence weigh on her. You know what the worst part is? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. It's not that you lied. It's not even that you slept with someone else. It's that you didn't even have the decency to end it before starting something new. You stayed. You used me. You let me love you while you buried a knife in my back and smiled while doing it. Her eyes started to water, and for a second, I thought she might beg. But instead, she growled, You're a cold son of a bitch. I shrugged. No, I'm just done pretending you matter. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her lip quivered. The bravado drained from her face like someone pulled the plug. She looked around like the room might shift back into her control, but the power was gone, stripped from her with every lie exposed. You don't even care, do you? She whispered, broken now, soft and trembling. I could cry, scream, fall apart in front of you, and you wouldn't blink. I looked her dead in the eye, stepped close enough for her to feel it, and said, correct. That one word sucked the breath from her lungs. Her hands fell to her sides, limp, defeated. What happens now? She asked, barely audible. I smiled without warmth. Now, I said. Now, you find out what it feels like to be irrelevant in a story you thought revolved around you. She stood there, shaking, blinking, trying to come up with something, anything that would put the reins back in her hands. But I'd already walked past her before she could speak, back into the kitchen, back to my coffee, leaving her standing in the ruins she built. And the silence left behind wasn't empty. It was judgment. It was final. It was power. I began the dismantling like a surgeon preps for an operation. No anger, no shaking hands, just sterile focus and surgical intent. The first move was simple: gather and duplicate every piece of evidence. I backed up the videos, the emails, the keylogger logs, the Uber receipts, the burner conversations with Alyssa, and even screenshots of her spreadsheets, especially the one titled Exit Strategy. I loaded everything onto 2 encrypted flash drives and stored one in a safety deposit box under my name alone, the other in my locked desk at work. Next, I restructured the finances. Quietly, methodically. We had one joint account. I emptied half, precisely half, and moved it into a new personal account she didn't know existed. I canceled our shared credit card and had a new one issued in my name only. Then I rerouted my direct deposit, ensuring my salary would never pass through hands that didn't deserve it. Utilities? Transferred out of her name, one by one. Netflix, Spotify, Amazon, all logged out and resecured. The car, which I had bought but let her drive, reclaimed with the spare key I'd kept hidden for years. She walked outside that Friday morning and stood in the empty driveway, phone in hand, confused, texting me like we were still married. I didn't reply. I was already 2 steps ahead. Next was the legal strike. I contacted a divorce attorney I'd vetted 2 weeks earlier, one of the sharpest in the state, quiet, discreet, vicious when required. We filed the petition under irreconcilable differences, but attached to the documents was an evidence binder organized with timestamps, metadata, and high-resolution images. No drama, just undeniable truth. I also filed an emergency request for a temporary restraining order on the joint property. She wouldn't be able to sell, damage, or drain anything without my signature. The house was in my name from before the marriage, technically hers only by association, and with her documented infidelity and betrayal, my lawyer said we could press for exclusive occupancy until the court finalized the divorce. I locked her out by noon. She came home from yoga and found the locks changed, a note on the door: your mail has been forwarded. You'll be contacted through your attorney. She lost it. Screamed at the door, pounded it like a junkie denied a fix. I watched from upstairs, sipping coffee, silent behind drawn blinds. She still thought this was a fight. It wasn't. It was sentencing day, and she hadn't even realized the trial was over. Then came the social collapse. I didn't blast her on social media. That's for amateurs. Instead, I sent carefully crafted messages to the people who mattered, her parents, her siblings, a few of her closest friends. I didn't editorialize. I simply shared select evidence with brief captions. Thought you deserved the truth. Her father called me that night, his voice hollow. He said, I'm ashamed. I'm so sorry. Her mother cried. Her brother offered to help move anything I needed out of the house. No one defended her. Not one. Alyssa? She got the final message. From the burner account she once flirted with. A goodbye text with attachments. Photos of her and Emma, videos, timestamps, all sent directly to her employer's HR department with a cover note. Concerned partner reporting inappropriate conduct involving a senior team member using company time and resources. I didn't have to wait long. 3 days later, Alyssa's Instagram was wiped clean, her LinkedIn suddenly open to new opportunities. Emma tried calling me then 8 times in one night. I didn't block her. I let the calls ring through. The silence was the punishment. And still, I wasn't done. I started removing her presence from my life like a surgeon excises a tumor. Photos, clothes, mementos all boxed, sealed, and placed on the curb under plastic, labeled free. She came by the next morning to collect them. I watched her from the upstairs window again, a hollow shell of the smug woman who once planned how to leave me like she was scheduling a dentist appointment. She cried in the driveway, shouted things I couldn't hear, eventually slumped against her own box of broken memories. I didn't go down. I didn't offer comfort. I just watched. She was a ghost now, a collapsed version of the person she used to pretend to be. And I wasn't angry. I wasn't gloating. I was free. She had tried to burn my life down from within, but all she'd done was give me the clarity to escape before the flames caught. And now, every step she took was one I had already planned. Every door she tried to open, I had already locked. She thought she was clever, untouchable. But I had rewritten the script, changed the locks, filed the papers, exposed the truth, and I never raised my voice. Not once. It all came to a head 2 weeks after I filed for divorce at her niece's birthday party, a small backyard gathering with family and close friends. The kind of event where kids run around with cake on their faces and adults pretend nothing is falling apart behind their smiles. Emma insisted I come, said it was important to her, to the family, that we keep things civil. I agreed, said I'd be there. She thought it meant I was softening, reconsidering, maybe even mourning the marriage. But what she didn't know was that I'd already spoken to her family, every single one of them. Her father, her mother, her siblings. They all had the evidence now. I'd given it to them directly. No grandstanding. Just a quiet email titled, Before You Choose Sides. They knew everything. Her affair with Alyssa. The secret accounts. The screenshots. The spreadsheet where she mapped out how to dismantle my life in silence. Her parents hadn't spoken to her since. Her brother told her he was too busy to talk. Her sister, once her biggest defender, unfollowed her on every platform. Still, she came to the party with her hair done up, wearing white like some reborn version of herself, laughing too loud, hugging people who only half-heartedly hugged back. She brought a gift and acted like nothing had changed. But the silence around her was different. The energy had shifted. People glanced at her, then glanced at me, and the smiles faded quicker than usual. No one mentioned Alyssa. No one asked about work. Her own mother walked right past her to greet me, hugged me like a son, and whispered, "You deserved better." Emma saw it. Saw every micro-expression, every pulled-back gesture, every averted gaze. She tried to compensate. More jokes. More charm. She offered to lead the group in singing Happy Birthday, but her voice cracked halfway through. I stood near the grill with her father, both of us watching. She looked over at me 3 times, and each time I met her gaze with that same calm expression, the one that told her I was no longer in the prison of her chaos. That I was the only one here who saw her clearly, and that everyone else finally did too. Then it happened. Her aunt, older and blunt, walked up with her phone in hand. "Emma, is this true?" she asked, holding up one of the screenshots, the one of her and Alyssa kissing, time-stamped and crystal clear. Emma froze. Laughed, a dry, choking sound. "That's out of context," she said, eyes wide, scanning for escape. "People are twisting things. Did you write this? Her uncle asked, holding a printed copy of the exit strategy document. Is this really how you talk about your husband? She tried to snatch the paper, but he pulled it back. Let me explain, she stammered. This isn't what you think. We were going through a rough patch. He was distant. I didn't know how to tell him I wasn't happy. So you just cheated? Her sister snapped from the patio. And tried to ruin him behind his back? Emma turned to me then, desperate, trembling. Tell them we weren't working. That you pulled away. That you made me feel like nothing. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. That was all it took. Her face crumpled. Her voice shook. You're letting them crucify me, she hissed. You think you're some saint? You think this makes you noble? You planned all this. Set me up like I'm the villain in your little sob story. No one moved to defend her. Not one person. Even the children had gone quiet. The birthday girl stood behind her mother, clutching her stuffed unicorn, watching her aunt fall apart like a character in a sad play no one had paid to see. Emma laughed again, but it was hollow. You people are insane, she barked, spinning in place. You all think he's some kind of victim? You don't know what it was like living with him. You don't know how cold he was. How controlled I felt. He ruined me long before I ever touched Alyssa. But the moment she said that name, her final shred of credibility died. Her mother turned away. Her father shook his head. Her best friend, once her ride or die, stood next to me now, arms crossed, mouth tight. You destroyed the only person who ever actually gave a damn about you, she said quietly. Congratulations. Emma stood there, trembling, mascara starting to run, her fist clenched like she was still trying to hold something together, but there was nothing left. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I let the silence drag her down into the collapse she had built with her own hands. She looked at me one last time, pleading now, eyes wet, lips quivering. But there was nothing left for her to say, and I made sure she knew it. It happened at a Sunday brunch her mother insisted on hosting, some delusional attempt to pretend the family hadn't imploded just weeks before. People gathered in pressed shirts and fake smiles, sipping mimosas in the garden like we weren't all standing in the crater of her betrayal. Emma was there, of course, sitting across from me at the long table, all sunshine and strained laughter, wearing a floral dress like she was still the golden daughter. Her parents sat stiffly at either end, exchanging glances, while her sister avoided eye contact altogether. I didn't plan to start anything. I really didn't. But then Emma raised her glass for a toast. To fresh starts, she said, smiling directly at me, like the venom she'd poured into my life was just a bad dream we'd both woken from. And I snapped. Not loudly. Not right away. I stood up, clinked my glass with a spoon, and said, actually, while we're all toasting honesty, let's finish the story Emma keeps trying to rewrite. The room fell dead silent. She froze, glass half raised, color draining from her face. You want to talk fresh starts? I said, voice steady but razor sharp. Then tell your mother how you lied to her face for 6 months while sneaking out to Alyssa's apartment. Tell your father how you laughed at his blessing on our marriage while writing spreadsheets on how to leave me. Murmurs rippled through the table. Someone gasped. Her aunt dropped a fork. Don't do this here, Emma snapped, eyes wide, voice trembling but trying to sound firm. Please, this isn't the place. Why not? I said, louder now. This is where you perform, right? Around the people who used to think you were decent. Go ahead, Emma, tell your niece why the party ended early that day. Tell everyone how you used me as a financial lifeline while plotting your escape like a hostage negotiator. You don't get to humiliate me like this, she shouted, rising to her feet. You're twisting everything. You were never present. You were cold. You were faithful, I interrupted. Stable. Honest. And completely blind to the fact that the woman I loved was already halfway out the door with her best friend's lips on her mouth. Her mother stood, trying to calm the tension. Maybe we should just— No, I snapped. They should hear this. All of it. Because I sat in silence for too long while she played victim. She talks about feeling trapped, like she didn't beg me to build a life with her, like she didn't move into my house, share my bed, spend my money, then call me boring the moment someone else offered her a shot of adrenaline. Emma lunged across the table then, voice shrill. You want to be a victim so bad. But maybe if you'd actually been a man, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. Gasps shot around the table. Her brother stood up, ready to intervene, but I raised a hand. No, I said, calm but cutting. Let her talk. Let everyone hear the truth, her truth. That loyalty isn't exciting enough. That love only matters when it feels like a movie script. That when things get hard, she doesn't work, she replaces. Her voice cracked then, tears rising, But not the kind you cry when you're sorry, the kind you cry when the walls are closing in. You ruined my life, she hissed. You orchestrated this. Every message, every leak. You made people hate me. No, I replied. You made people hate you. I just showed them what you really are. Alyssa showed up then, late, clearly not expecting the circus. She stopped short at the garden gate, eyes locked on the scene unraveling. Perfect, I said. Now we're all here. Why don't you explain to your girlfriend why her boss found out about your late-night meetings? Why you're both unemployed now? Or maybe explain it to the neighbors who heard you screaming at each other the night after the gallery. You're disgusting, Emma said, breath ragged. You planned this like a psychopath. No, I said. I planned it like someone who was tired of being lied to, who got tired of watching the woman he loved rot from the inside out. Her father sat down, shaking his head. I can't even look at you, he muttered. Her mother wiped tears from her cheeks. Her sister whispered something to her own husband and stood, dragging their child away. Phones were out now. I saw one of her cousins filming, wide-eyed. Emma's whole body trembled. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Her lips moved, but no sound escaped. She turned to Alyssa, desperate, but Alyssa just stared at her cold, disappointed, already stepping back toward the sidewalk. Please, Emma whispered. Please stop. Why? I asked. This is what you wanted, remember? Freedom, power, passion. Well, here it is, all of it. Everyone's watching now. They see you, really see you, and you can't run from it anymore. She collapsed onto the chair behind her, hands shaking, shoulders heaving with silent sobs. And I stood there, unmoved, watching her break. Not because I wanted to hurt her anymore, but because she needed to feel what truth looked like when it wasn't softened by silence. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch her. But every word I spoke landed like thunder. And when I finally turned to leave, every eye followed me, because they knew, without question, who had won. She lost everything in under 6 weeks. After the brunch, her job dropped her like a live grenade. They didn't make it public, but word spread fast in their quiet little industry, and suddenly, no one was replying to her emails. Alyssa vanished like smoke, blocked her on everything, changed jobs, even deleted mutual photos. Apparently being the other woman is only exciting when there's no audience. Emma tried spinning the narrative online, but screenshots spoke louder than hashtags. Her friends ghosted her. Even her yoga clique, those wine night warriors she used to laugh with while planning her double life, unfollowed her and moved on without a word. She started reaching out to people she hadn't spoken to in years, desperate to find someone who'd forgotten. No one had. Her family cut contact entirely. Her father told her not to show up for Thanksgiving. Her sister sent her back a birthday card with the words, "Return to sender." Wrong address. Even her mother, soft-spoken, forgiving, told me in tears, she's not the daughter I raised. I don't know what she is anymore. Emma moved out of the city, took a job managing the register at some boutique that didn't check social media. She used a different last name. She didn't post anymore. Just lurked. Watching. Always watching. And then came the messages, soft, broken, inconsistent. I miss you. I messed up. Can we talk? I still love you. The first few I ignored completely. Then she called. It was late. Her voice cracked on the second word. Please. I need to say this. I let her speak. I didn't interrupt. She cried. Sobbed. Said everything she should have said years ago. Things about how she was scared. How she didn't think I'd stay forever. How Alyssa was just a bad decision at a lonely time. I said nothing. Just listened. She asked if we could meet. Just to talk. Just to see if there's anything left. I looked out the window as she spoke. The sky was calm. My life was calm. I had no interest in letting a storm back in. You know, I said, I've spent months trying to remember what I saw in you. And I realized it wasn't you I loved. It was the lie you told better than anyone else. She was silent. I didn't hang up. I just let that sentence sit. It was enough. She sent one last message a week later. A photo of us from years ago. Smiling. Young. Back when she hadn't started planning her escape behind my back. The caption said, if I could go back, I'd choose you all over again. I replied once. Just one line. Strange. I don't even remember your name anymore. She hasn't contacted me since. She exists now in a place I'll never revisit, a name I deleted, a voice I unlearned, a chapter one closed without rereading. She didn't just destroy our life. She burned the bridge back to humanity. And I watched. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just let gravity do its work, And now she's exactly where she belongs, alone, irrelevant, and forgotten. Thank you for listening to my story. It's been a hell of a ride. Now tell me, where are you from? And did you enjoy it?